want to talk about big picture stuff, uh, particularly what Martellus Bennett said about Jimmy Garoppolo on a podcast with the McCourty twins. Did you see this?
Yep.
I think most people around here have seen this. It was shocking. Like players don't talk this way about players. So I'm gonna, and it was vulgar. So in the interest of family, people watching, Amin being 13 and me knowing his parents and them not, wanting us to curse, we're gonna clean it up a little bit. We're gonna talk about what this means and doesn't mean. So this is what Martellus Bennett said. He said, "Bro, we lost 2 games without Brady. One of them was because Jimmy Garoppolo was being a B word." He really said this. One of them was because Jimmy Garoppolo was being a B word. He decided not to play right before the game. Jacoby Brissett came out and played with a messed up thumb and played his heart out, but Jimmy was just being a B word about it all. That's why he says you can't win with the B word for a quarterback, first of all. That was the whole thing with him. He didn't want to come out and do anything because his agent was trying to protect his body or something like that, which I can't fault him for that, but like you should have made that decision on Thursday. Now it's Sunday. Anyway, that's what he said. Uh, my take real quick is that, I mean, you can't really trust Martellus Bennett. It's just one guy. But Devin McCourty didn't object. He was laughing right along with him. And it seemed like this is kind of how the locker room looked at it. Now, in fairness to Jimmy, he was listed as questionable that Friday. So, I mean, it's going to come down to game time. But I think the culture over there with Tom Brady and that team is, hey, man, if you're the starting quarterback and you can play, you got to play. And I think they looked at him as a guy who made business decisions in the last few years. I think we kind of seen that too. I don't know. What do you think, man?
Well, my whole thoughts is he said it a little bit too aggressively, but Niners fans get mad for the same thing. We had Jimmy Garoppolo for the same exact thing.
It's
Just look
true.
at just look at last year, for example, right?
Right.
Jimmy Garoppolo, he has that high sprained ankle, and he misses like majority of the season. So Niners fans get mad at Jimmy Garoppolo for the same exact thing that Martellus Bennett got mad at Jimmy Garoppolo yesterday on his podcast with the McCourty twins. So I mean, I'm not surprised at his comments because we get mad at the same exact thing.
I mean, if you remember last year, Jimmy Garoppolo hurt his ankle week 2, came back week 5 or 6, played,
I think
gutted
against
it
the
out.
Dolphins. I think against the
Yeah,
Dolphins, yeah.
gutted it out for a few weeks, got hurt again, and then shut it down for the whole year. And at the end, John Lynch said something to the effect of Jimmy Garoppolo has been the best scout team quarterback he's ever seen, which would imply that he was playing really, really well in practice at the end of the year, which would imply he might have been able to, I don't know, play. It just makes you, what Martellus said makes you go back and be like, man, was he making a business decision here? It's funny that that's what the Patriots thought of him.
And Martellus Bennett also said, I don't know if you heard it, but he said Jacoby Brissett had a messed up thumb and he
Right.
played through the
He
game.
gutted it out.
Yeah, so he gutted it out. Jacoby Brissett was the third string. He wasn't
Right.
with all 3 quarterbacks, Tom Brady, Jimmy Garoppolo was the second string, and Jacoby Brissett was the third string. He gutted it out with a jacked up thumb. You should be able to play it too. I get it for your long term, but still, if Jacoby Brissett has a jacked up thumb, he could injure his thumb way worse during the game. But he still decided, yo, my team needs me. Jimmy Garoppolo's not playing. My team needs me. Otherwise, he could have also sat out if he wanted to, but he didn't. He pushed
Right.
through and he gutted it out.
Right. Because what Martellus is basically saying is that Jimmy shut himself down right before the game. And it's like, I think what they're saying is, well, Tom Brady never would have done that. Jacoby Brissett never would have done that. And how can you win? How can you count on a quarterback who does something like that? And then you'd be like, well, man, maybe that's making a mountain out of a molehill. But then in the last time Jimmy got hurt against the Seahawks just a few weeks ago, what happened? He was playing. And then at the end of halftime, he said he couldn't play anymore, right? That's what they said. Well, they didn't have time to prepare anything. And right as they were coming back for the second half, they all learned that he couldn't play anymore. Kind of like the same thing, right? Hey, guys, I just want you to know I'm not healthy enough to play. Oh, well, that would have been good information 15 minutes ago or 2 weeks, or 2 days ago. I
Yeah.
think that's, and it's like, maybe that's unfair for other positions, but if you're the starting quarterback, you kind of need to be a little bit, you can't just be pulling the rug out from people at the beginning of the third quarter or right before the game. I think that's what, real quick, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but when the Patriots traded Jimmy to the Niners, everyone always said that the Niners won the trade and that Belichick didn't want to trade Jimmy and that Belichick basically had to act against his will. I never bought that. He's the most powerful man in the league. The idea that he would be forced to do something he didn't want to do. I always felt like he knew something we didn't about Jimmy. And I think this is it. I think he felt that, his locker room felt that. He's not one of us. We can't depend on this guy. That the locker room sort of rejected him in a sense. I think that's what happened. And I think it was his secret, because if that got out, then his trade value would tank and the Niners wouldn't give up a second round pick for him. But I think that's what his secret was. And that's what the Niners didn't know. They didn't know about D Ford. They didn't know about Jimmy Garoppolo.
Well, the Niners, I will say, when we saw him at first, 2017, Jimmy Garoppolo was running five games in a row against good Titans teams, Jacksonville Jaguars teams. At the time, we're like, Jimmy Garoppolo's the future. But then at the same time, when the Niners paid him that huge contract for $100+ million, majority of people's concerns was that it's only 6 games. It's only 6 games, and you give this guy $100 million contract, and look at where it ended up to now. Look at what it got us: a couple of injured seasons and one good season we made it to Super Bowl, but we didn't even win the Super Bowl. Otherwise, outside of that, it's been 2018 injury, 2019 winning season, and then 2020 injury. And then also,
and it's not just the injuries. It's that it looks like to his teammates that he doesn't do everything he can to fight and play, and that he'll actually shut it down right at the last minute to preserve his own stock. It's a bad look. It's a bad look. So it's like it's beyond soft. I've called him soft before, but what he said, taking it to this next level, is like, man, you're not a team player. You're not a leader. I know he used a derogatory word, and he didn't really. I mean, that's not the best way to express what you. But I think what he's trying to say is, man, you're not tough, and you're more concerned with yourself than you are for the team. Look at Jacoby. Jacoby went out, had a messed up thumb, didn't play well, lost. His stock went down. You know, his numbers aren't good, but we all respect him. You wouldn't do that for us, is what. Devin McCourty didn't disagree.
And he was younger. Jacoby Brissett was younger than Jimmy Garoppolo at the time, right? And also, he was a third string. So, like, he could have jacked up his thumb during the game even more. And who knows, it could have ended his career if he jacked up his thumb really badly. But he decided he would gut it through, and he played. Jimmy Garoppolo was like, you know what? I'm not going to play. And I mean, if he decided that on Thursday, I think players would be less mad. But then he decided it on Sunday, and I'm like, okay, then Martellus Bennett is mad because you just told him on game day. You legit told him on game day. Just kind of how, like, Andrew Luck, he retired just right before the season was about to start, and fans got mad. Fans were a little bit upset. If he said that a couple of months before the season and during the off season, I don't think Colts fans would have been as upset. But since he said it right before the season started, I think people got more mad at that. So
I just remember when this was kind of like being rumored that the Niners might be interested in Jimmy. This was years ago. I was talking to a former coach, and I said, well, you think the Niners should go after Jimmy? And he said, man, if Jimmy's available, there's something we don't know about him. He's not as good as they say, because if he were the truth, they wouldn't get rid of him. I mean, the Patriots got rid of Brett Favre because they knew Aaron Rodgers was the truth. The Niners got rid of Joe Montana because they knew Steve Young was the truth. Bill Belichick at the last minute was like, we're sticking with Tom Brady. And there was this narrative that he did it, that he was forced to do it. Yeah, right, dude. They knew the word was out on Jimmy. That's how the team felt about him.
To be honest, after what happened for these last couple of years, he was probably just saying that just to boost Jimmy Garoppolo's trade value.
Of course. That's a secret.
That's probably the only reason why he said that. Now, let's say, you can have Jimmy Garoppolo. He didn't say that. Then I don't know if the Niners necessarily would be willing to give up a second rounder. But since he said that, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch probably like, oh, Bill Belichick wants to keep Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, Bill Belichick, the great Bill Belichick wants Jimmy Garoppolo. So we're going to give you the second round pick, and look at how it ended up for the 49ers.
One thing I want to say before we finish. When the Niners traded for Garoppolo, I interviewed 2 writers, Ben Volin, and I forget the other guy's name. Sorry, about Jimmy. What do you know? And they're New England guys. And the other guy, I'm trying to find it real quick, told me a story. I just have it here. Here, hold on. I'm gonna look it up. Do players like Garoppolo? Borges. I wrote this in 2017. I know they did like him overall, but they didn't like the fact that he didn't last 2 games before he basically wouldn't play with an AC issue in his shoulder. Hold on. Yes, cookies, fine. And we can debate whether that's a good idea or a bad idea, but Jacoby Brissett went in and tore a thumb ligament in his throwing hand and kept playing. I know, quite frankly, it privately bothered some of Garoppolo's teammates that he didn't keep going. I reported that in 2017. Borges told me that. Ron Borges. This is a story. It pissed off the locker room. Belichick essentially kept it in house and traded the guy for a high pick, but he was never going to be their quarterback. He was never going to be their quarterback.